Our topic today is Spreadsheet Superpowers for your pipeline reports. So we will go over several magical spreadsheet tips and tools that'll help you produce the exact data that you need, and seriously a fraction of the time once you see how to do these things. So we got a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to show some basics first, but I'm going to do them really quickly because I assume if you're on here, you probably know much about Excel, but I will go over it just in case you don't. So let me start by going to pipeline. So first, of course, you need some data to actually work with in Excel. So there are a couple of ways that you get information from pipeline to Excel. It's either via reports and or downloads. Sometimes the reports, in cases where you want to get that data into Excel, the reports that are downloads are the ones that you're working with. So if we hop over to our reports tab, there are several reports throughout here that when you run them, they actually produce a download. For example, the commissions and closings report, right? So once I specify my criteria here, I can download the report, and that's going to download a spreadsheet for me, okay? So that's one way, and I'll get some data that I can manipulate in a spreadsheet program that way. Or I could go to my transactions page and run any of these spreadsheets under the download section. So I can run a full spreadsheet, I can run a spreadsheet of transactions created in 2017 or those created in 2018, etc. Okay, so I've already run a full spreadsheet, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up over here so that you can see it. Okay, so I've got these, and I've got a second one here. Let me open another one. Okay, so first one to go over just the fact that I'm using Excel here now. You can use whatever spreadsheet application that you want. Excel is one of my personal favorites applications of all time. But again, any spreadsheet application, you can even use Google Sheets. You're not going to have the exact same features that we're going to go over here today, but generally there's some way to get to them. But again, I'm going to do things that are within Excel. First thing I wanted to mention is just that notice when I open this up, some of my columns are not fully expanded. Just a little quick tip to get everything expanded so that you can see all the data within each cell is to, in your upper left corner here, go to this triangle and click to select all of your cells. That selects all of them. And then double click any of these column separators, okay? Columns are these vertical up and down columns, and rows are when you're looking at data across, right? So this is a column and this is a row. Okay, so again, if you select this option up here to select all cells, and then you double click any column separator, that will expand all of your columns to fit the data that's within them perfectly. Okay, and same deal actually for rows. If I've selected all of these, and let's say I've got some wrapping going on, or we're cutting off because of some wrapping, I could do the same thing here, double click a row separator, and it will automatically fit the row height based on the data. Okay, so that's a really quick way, especially when you come in with data and maybe it looks like this, maybe not our spreadsheets, but other ones. Maybe your spreadsheets look something like that. You know, everything's crowded. You can just come in, double click, and expand everything to where it needs to go. Okay, so that's the first thing there. Again, columns and rows here, because we're going to talk about those a lot. So first thing I want to show you is sorting. Again, basic, you've probably already done this, but whenever you're sorting, generally you want to select, Excel's gotten a lot smarter, so you don't, in many cases, you don't even need to make any selection before you do your sorting. You can just be on the page. For example, now if I go to sort, which is under data, if I go to sort, it automatically recognizes the column headers, even though they're not the first row of this spreadsheet. So again, it's gotten a lot smarter than it used to be in the past. So I could actually sort based on location. Okay, it automatically sorts that data. Well, not automatically, but I set it to sort that data. Sometimes you may only want to sort a group of data, or maybe you've got a lot of noisy columns up top, not for the pipeline reports, but in general. So in those cases, when you want to sort the data, generally you want to select your entire rows, right? You could select the rows by highlighting and then dragging over, but that's a lot more cumbersome than it is to actually just click on the row headers here themselves to select the entire rows. Okay, there are exceptions when you really only want to select a certain number of columns here, you know, not all the way over, but that's pretty rare. Generally, you want everything to sort together, so you select the entire rows. Okay, and then once you've done that, then go ahead and specify your sort if you've got column headers. If you don't have column headers here, and I go to sort, right now it's using this first row as the column header, which is not correct. So I need to say my data does not have column headers, really because I've just specified what I want to be sorted. When I hadn't specified, it properly recognized what the column headers were. But again, you've got the, and if you don't have column headers at all, right? Maybe this row were not here. And then I go to sort, right? There are no column headers. I can just say so. No column headers, and then I can just sort based on the column letter, okay, which I can see up a bit above. So if I want to sort by location, I would just say column F. Okay, so sorting is straightforward. Common sort that people want to do, let me go to my full list here. A common sort that people may want to do, especially at the end of the year, is maybe look at all transactions for a particular agent. So let's say I wanted to sort these transactions based on the listing agent, which is over here. Okay, my listing agents. Now note that I've got a lot of fields here that precede my listing agent all the way over there, and I keep having to scroll. Maybe I'm not really, for this particular instance, interested in all these other fields. I can certainly delete these. And again, since I want to delete the entire columns, I'm going to select the entire column here. Maybe I don't want these particular fields here. So I can highlight them and then right-click to delete them. Okay, so now I can see my listing and my selling agents over there. Again, let's say I'm looking for all the transactions for a particular agent. I can sort this. Maybe I'll sort by, go back to data to get to my sort. Sort by listing agent, right? And then I can see all of Diane's transactions right there. I can see all of Jessica's transactions below, etc. Right? So that's sorting. And I can sort on any field within here, obviously. But just to stick with the agent example, what if I really only wanted to see Diane's? Instead of just sorting, I wanted to actually filter them. And filtering's super helpful for a couple of reasons. Let me revert back to its original state here. So I've got my full list there. I'm going to take these away again, just so I can get straight to my agents, right? So let's say I wanted to only see Diane's transactions. So instead of sorting this time, I'm going to actually filter. So let me click my filter icon, which again is under data. I click filter. It's going to show these arrows at the top of each of the columns. And here I can click on it, and I only want Diane, I think that's what I said, right? So what I'm going to do is, instead of everyone being checked there, I'm going to uncheck everyone. Right now it's listing everybody who's in this spreadsheet in that column. I only want to see Diane. Okay, so I can go ahead and click to only show Diane's transactions. Okay, so that's a much cleaner report for me. All right. Now, and then same deal, maybe I wanted to see only when she's in. Let me go ahead and clear this filter. Maybe I wanted to see when she's a selling agent, then I can do the same there, right? Well, actually, she's not a selling agent at all. So let's say I were looking for Jessica. I can do just Jessica. Okay. So let me clear that filter. Let me show you one more thing. Notice that in the spreadsheet, when agents are listed, when there are multiple agents on a transaction, they'll both be listed, or maybe three or however many there are for a transaction. They'll all be listed separated by commas here. So in that case, you see here, I can select wherever Molly, Linda, and Spencer are an agent on the transaction, which I don't really want. Maybe I really wanted to see only those where Linda was the agent, right? I could select Linda, but it's not going to get her when she's in there, right? It's only going to get it when she's exactly Linda. The way that I get around that, or the way that I achieve that, is I'm not going to use this selecting individual people at all. I'm actually going to do a text filter. So I can say whenever the listing agent contains, let's say, Linda. or Lynn. I'm just going to do Lynn for now, right? So that way I can get it whenever she's in there. Okay. Now there may be, particularly for agents, an instance where you want to see where Linda is in the listing agent column or the selling agent column. And that gets a little more complex. If you want to know that, let us know. I can walk you through it for, on a case-by-case basis, or maybe we'll make a separate video for that. But it gets quite a bit more complex to be able to do that. All right. Okay, so that is filtering. If you ever wanted to permanently filter them, because as soon as I turn this filter off, or excuse me, deselect filter, it reverts to show the full list of data. If you ever wanted to just retain that filter that you've set, you could copy these and then paste it somewhere else. Okay, so that is filtering. Okay, some other popular things that people do, I'm going to go to my other spreadsheet here, or some regular things that people need to do are totaling, obviously. So let's say I wanted to find the total of all the sale price and listing prices, maybe on all of these transactions. I could do that by going to my Home tab here. And I'll always have this shortcut to AutoSum or some other automatic features. So if I go down to the bottom of my list here of data that I want to summarize, then I can click the AutoSum feature, and that will automatically, after I hit enter, give me the sum of that amount that it just highlighted. Let me do that again real quickly. So if I hit AutoSum, see by default it's selecting, it's trying to be smart. Actually, there was a gap there. It didn't select it all, so I would need to re-establish that selection. So I'm actually going to start up here, and I'm just clicking. It automatically knows that I'm trying to fill this, specify this range for this sum, and then hit enter, and so it'll sum that amount up for me. So a nice automatic feature there. Okay. Let me do it on this other column here. In addition to totaling or summing the data above, you can also specify, maybe I want an average instead of a sum, or the maximum value or the minimum value, etc. So I've got all of these options here. So if I say average, again, it's trying to guess, so it sees these gaps, so it's not quite sure where to go, but I would go to the top and select this whole range. Actually, to the very top. I'm just doing this for illustrative purposes. So I go ahead and let it do that average for me. It did an average. Okay. So that's how you specify those totals. You can also, let's say I didn't really want to put this on the spreadsheet on the screen, didn't want to do an actual total. Maybe let me go to my shorter spreadsheet here. Let's say I wanted to see what the total was without actually inserting the formula. I could just highlight those that I wanted to see the total for, and this happens a lot. I really just want to kind of eyeball see how much this is. I can highlight it, and it's going to show me some values down below here. So of what I've selected, the average of those numbers is 386,000 some change. The sum is this amount, and there are 22 instances of it. Okay, and those are three of the most popular stats that people want to see. But I can actually change these also. If I right-click in this area, I can specify which metrics I want to see. So maybe I want to see the minimum, or the number count, and not the regular count, right? So now you see that it shows me those stats that I've specified. Alrighty, cool. So those are the totals. And then the last feature that I want to show you is subtotaling, because it's so super cool. Okay, so let's say I've got my longer report here, and I'm going to start from scratch here again and delete those fields because I want to. To subtotal, which you will want to do regularly, probably, particularly as you need to roll up data and see what their sums are, you first need to sort, right? So let's say I wanted to get subtotals by location. I need to first sort by location. So let me go ahead to my data. So I'm going to sort, and I'm going to say based on location. Right? Okay, so I've got my data sorted by location. Subtotals are way easier than you would think they would be. So while I've selected anywhere in my data, right? I've got my cursor anywhere, or my cell selection anywhere in my data. I'm going to, while I'm on the data tab, go over here to subtotal. And I'll say whenever the location changes, I want a sum on the list price and the sale price. Okay. And I'm going to replace current subtotals just because there aren't any yet, right? So now I've got subtotals based on location. Every time the location changes, I get a subtotal for those two fields that I specified, or those two columns, okay? If I wanted to do multi-levels of subtotals, I can do that also. So if I click subtotal again, and this time I don't say replace because I want to keep the current subtotals, right? I don't want to replace the current subtotals. And maybe I want to do sale price and list price, but I want the average, right? So same thing, but I want an average also. So now I've got the average and the sums there. Okay, which there's some zeros there, which is why it's, or some blanks, which is why it's giving me trouble, right? But I've got that nice summary there. I can even do it on a different value. So if I do subtotal again, and this time I want to do it whenever the status changes, right? Whenever the status changes, I want to do a total. I can go ahead and say okay there. Okay, so I've got some subtotals within those, right? I'm going to undo that last one just so you can, when I show you this last piece, it's just a little bit cleaner because I really don't want all those subtotals. But so let's say I've got all these subtotals and I've also got all my data. That can be helpful if I really do need to drill down and see what each subtotal contains. But maybe I really just want the aggregate. I really just want to see what the subtotals are themselves. I could actually, mine is not expanded here, but if my window were wide enough, this would say hide detail and show detail. Okay, so I'm going to hide detail here. Let me select the whole thing first and hide detail. And now I've got an aggregate report, which these zeros are making me upset, but that's okay. I've got this aggregate report where I can really cleanly see what my totals are by location, my grand total, etc. So a nice clean aggregate report that I built myself. Okay, with just a few changes. Okay, so let's now go ahead and open up a full spreadsheet because I want to show you macros. So far everything that we've done, excuse me, has helped you streamline your data, look at the data you need to see, do subtotals, do certain actions on your data. What the macro will do is allow you to record that series, whatever series of actions you want to do. Let's say each month you delete some columns and do some subtotals and maybe do some formatting of certain cells so that they stand out more, etc. Whatever actions you do regularly, whether that be weekly, daily, monthly, whatever, you can record those in a macro so that the next time you need to do them, you just run that macro either with just a key command or a click and have all those actions done for you automatically. So it saves a ton of time. So let's go ahead and dive into that. So first, where are the macros? They're under View and then Macros. So under here, if I'm ready to record a series of steps that I do regularly, I would say Record Macro. And let's call this demo. And I'm going to give it a key command, W. And okay. Okay, so now I'm recording. So everything that I do from now on until I stop is going to be captured. So let's say I'm going to start first by unmerging this row here, because right now these fields are merged so that they span properly. But if I don't unmerge them, it makes my macros super wonky, as I learned the hard way. Okay, so let's go ahead and unmerge these, and that's under the Home tab. And then I'm going to unmerge under the Merge and Center. Okay, and since I want to see all of those, I'm going to do our little trick we did at the beginning and expand our rows, or auto-fit our rows. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do all the things I want to do. So let me first, let's say I'm not interested in these particular columns for this particular example, so I'll delete those just to work with the fields that I'm interested in right now. Okay, and then I think I will sort on the data and sort on my location. Okay, then I'm going to do some subtotals. Maybe each time for each location, I want the list price, sale price, and commission amount. Okay, and so I think I'm good here for now. I do want to see them in aggregate. You see the summaries. I don't really want to see the details. So normally I would do high detail here, but the macro actually doesn't record that step because that's more of a display option. So I'm going to stop my recording here. Okay. And then I'm going to close this and go open a fresh report. I'm not going to save the report. Not save. Save. Okay. And then I'm going to go open a brand new fresh spreadsheet that I've just run this month, let's say. And now I'm going to do Control W. I could get to it this way also if I did View, Macros. It's this one here. I could just run it. I can do it that way, or I can do Control W, which is the key command I set up. And so I just did that quick key command, and you see it did everything. It did all the subtotals. It did this unmerging, etc., in just an instant. So now all I have to do, just because for this particular example I want to do it, now all I need to do is hide my detail. So I'm going to select all of this, hide my detail, and I've got a nice summary report or aggregate report. Okay, so super easy. And again, you can use that to record whatever actions you do regularly, whether it's just formatting or adding some formulas, etc. And there are some more elaborate things you can do also in your macro. For example, if you want to apply a formula to a whole column, that type of thing. So we may get into some of that in a later webinar, but that should get you started as far as really automating some of the things that you do regularly.